I'm gonna have to find a way to make that go out slowly. Good morning, MoB family. Hello, welcome to our MoB Kaffeeklatsch episode number 81. It's amazing that we're up to 81. How is everyone doing today? Let me get to the comments so I can see what people are saying. All right, let me just say real quick. Good morning, Jasmine, Tracy. This feed's moving quick, so if I miss you, understand that it's not intentional. Morning, young man. I wonder who that is. Hello, Renee. Good morning, Joe. Good morning. Let's see. I said Tracy. Good morning, Jasmine. Thor. Good morning. Good morning, Chris Mendoza. Enid. Good morning. Mary Beth. Good morning. Facebook user. Good morning. Why rush it? Knows. I don't know what that. Okay, we'll talk about that later, Thor. I don't know. We're talking about 221 Baker Street, which is Holmes. So if you're a Facebook user, please don't forget to allow StreamYard permissions so that we can see the names, or put your name in the comment that you're making. Like say, hey, this is such and such. This is so and so, and good morning. Good morning, Marianne. We have one new subscriber. Awesome, Chris. Dan, all right. Good morning. Let's see, Laura, good morning. Heather, good morning. She keeps eyes on Fluff so she doesn't put her nose on the fantastic mode. Don't do that. You don't need a caffeinated kitten. That would not be good. You don't want your kitten caffeinated. All right, everyone, how's everyone doing? Good morning and welcome to episode 81. Let's discuss, let's talk about blood lessons. Now we can talk all you want about blood lessons, bring up questions, we can discuss it. I'm anticipating that everyone who's here has read blood lessons. If not, then we'll have to do like spoiler alerts if you're in the middle of the book.
Coffee is life. Just right up there with meat. Yes, Marie, your name is showing. For sure. So, yes, guys. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all well. What did you guys think of Blood Lessons? It ended up being fairly long. I mean, it didn't go feral, but it did go pretty. It was supposed to be 55K, and it ended up being 64K. So it was almost, I want to say, almost 10K over. So yeah, it was pretty good. And I thought it would. When I got to 55K, I realized there was at least maybe 2, 3, 4 more chapters still left. And I was like, oh, this is gonna go way past 55K. It's crazy. Oh, you gotta channel that energy, Chris. I know what that could be like. I had an internet issue earlier this morning, definitely. Thank you, Mary Beth. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So what did you guys? Someone had mentioned that. Okay, first of all, is there anyone here who hasn't read the entire book? Because I don't want to say thing. Welcome, Craig. #villain. Is there anyone? I don't want to say anything that would spoil the book. So, is there anyone here who hasn't read Blood Lessons? Please let me know in the comments, because I don't want to say something that you're gonna be like, oh no, you said something near the end of the book, and now I can't. Now you ruined it for me. But I want to discuss something that someone had said about Monty near the end of the book, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. But first, before we do that, because everybody's here, or almost everybody's here, we got a bunch of you here already. Shout out to everyone on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Like, YouTube. Hello. We're on Instagram. I haven't really posted anything on Instagram in a while, because first it was Blood Lessons, and now I'm getting ready for the Secret Project and Broken Magic, so it's been a little crazy. But we're at Bitten Peaches. I promise to start posting next week. What's today? The 28th? So on Monday, the 31st, we can start posting. So it's like Halloween. Awesome. So at Bitten Peaches on Instagram, go find us, and you'll see excerpts from the books, and I'll start refreshing and putting up new ones. We're on ZAZZLE at M&S, so it's EMANDES, M&S. So go get your swag at the ZAZZLE store. Patreon, I don't know if we have any new patrons, but I want to thank all the existing patrons. Thank you for supporting the writing and supporting, everything that we're doing over here. So I want to thank all the patrons for being so awesome. The newsletter will be coming out, I want to say, in a few weeks, because I don't want to. There's a bunch of stuff that's coming up, and I also want to talk about the secret project. So I want to put that out in the newsletter. So that'll be coming out, I want to say, around the 8th of November, the newsletter. I try not to make it too often, because then it becomes like spam. BookBub, don't forget we're on BookBub. So go to BookBub, sign up to BookBub, find my books, follow, please, and then, just leave reviews you can like. It doesn't have to be an extensive thing. Same thing with Binge Books. Binge Books, you can join, add your reviews. It gives it social proof, and it just lets people know where we are. So that's, for now, that's all the shout outs, all the early announcements. All right, so let's see. Not too fear. Yeah, 67K is more fear than 64K. I feel your pain, Chris. A wizard. Right. What is Dan saying? I like the glimpse into Dexter's level of power when he casually batted away. Yeah, that was kind of fun. He's just upset, and he's like backhands the blast away. This is the most Jason. I don't know who this is, because it just says Facebook user, but I'm gonna read it. It says, "This was the most Jason Statham of books I've read, like a cross between Crank and The Transporter." I've read Blood Lessons 3 times, and it was exhausted at the end of it. Yeah, it was kind of fat, like just the part. So what made the book really long was the fact that we were on the river for so long. Like, so many things had to happen on the river. And let me just check really quick to make sure no one is like, I didn't read Blood Lessons. All right. It seems like everybody read it. Okay. Like, so I'm going to talk about how we had to destroy the mobula, right? Or the mobula, but I don't want to say mobula, it's mobula. And mobula is the scientific or genus for manta rays, if you didn't know. Now you know. So mobula is the scientific name for a ray, and manta rays fall within that, and the boat becomes like a sub, and the sub has wings that come out the side, and that makes it look like a ray, a manta ray, and the mobula is the scientific name for ray. Okay, awesome, Anthony. I'm sorry you were exhausted each time. Let's talk teaser. Fenris the Wolf. I don't know if I could, we could definitely talk about the secret project, because that is in the secret. So Fenris is a guardian who's been around for a very, very, very long time, hence the name Fenris, right? And he's tasked with keeping Valentina alive. If you haven't guessed who the Traveler is, you haven't been reading Monty and Strong. You should know who the Traveler is. Anyone want to share who the Traveler is in that first part of the secret project? Why do I aim for 55K? Would each story not just be whatever size it ends up being? 50, 90, whichever. Oh, I don't know who you are, Facebook users, but that's a great question. I always aim for 50K, always. Very rarely do I hit an exact 50K, but 50K is like when I know I'm near 50, I know I'm near the end. So it gives me something to aim at, 50K, but I never say it's only going to be 50K. I don't deliberately chop the story down at 50K because the 50K is a hard limit. It's more like, this is the goal. Most of my books are 50K because it also makes it easy to read. You can pretty much read it in a few hours at 50K. If I start writing epic stories like 100K, 150, 200K, it becomes a tome and it's hard to finish quickly. So you put it down, you might get to it. With 50K, you start and you read and you just get into it. And by the time you know, by the time you realize, you're done. The book is done. You're like, you know? Whoever said Sydney Rat is correct. Yes, the Traveler is Sydney Rat. So, okay. The term for the wings are dive planes. Yes, exactly. I wonder if I should have had Monty correct Simon about the wings, you know? So 50K is a good goal. It's also, when I really started getting into writing, I would do NaNoWriMo every year. And the goal for NaNoWriMo was 50K in a month, which is, it seems like a lot, but it's only 1,600 words a day, 1,600 something. And it kind of stuck. But after I stopped doing Nano, because I haven't done Nano in a few years now, but after I stopped doing Nano, I realized, yeah, 50K is actually kind of a good goal to aim for. And then, but my books almost always go past 50K. Like this last one is 64. So, but 50K is a good, like, okay, we can hit 50K. Yeah, like 1675. But when you have 50K, so this is Blood Lessons, right? The format is a little big. This is 64K. It's fairly thick, but you know, it's you can look at this book and say, I can finish this in a few hours. And that's why I do 50Ks. It feels like the old paperbacks, like Craig is saying. Yeah. Like this, like it feels pulpy, like a pulp book, you know, like the old paperbacks. When I was doing the smaller size books, see if I have one here. Hold on, let me reach. This is a 50K book. This is Full Moon House. I have all the books here. So this is the smaller size, right? I don't do them this small anymore, as you can see. So the smaller books, this really looks like a pulp fiction novel, this one. And so 50K, you know, I don't open these too much because it's like the collector's library. So they're like in pristine condition. So that's why I do 50K. All right. Hello, Audrey. We're discussing Fenris. What do you guys want to know about Fenris? I can't tell you too much because the story's not written yet, but I could definitely tell you a lot about his history, who he is, and what's going on. Good morning, Facebook user. You might need to enable StreamYard. Link is in the description. Yes. Can someone give me the link to, I should have this. Yeah. Right, the pocketbooks, like, so Craig is really explaining, the pocketbooks would fit in the back pocket of your jeans way back in the Old West. And that's why they were so small. Yeah, I can't put up that link, Jim. That link will like break StreamYard. That's too big. Mary Beth wants to know, will it be a new series? Yes. I have Deranged Dr. Design working on the design. It's so awesome. So because it's urban fantasy with a romantic twist, my usual artist, which is Milo at Deranged Dr. Design, is going to do it with another artist named Dragana. And they're each going to do a version of what the cover should be, because I already gave them the brief. And the one that resonates more with the story will be the one to do the series. And it is going to be a series. So yes. Will Fenris be true to his mythology? I'm going to make some big twists. I'm still contemplating whether he should be a shifter into a wolf, because obviously we're Fenris, right? All right, thank you, Chris. I'm going to put up your link. Here we go. Fenris is a wolf from Norse mythology. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have it on the top of my head right now, Marie, but it's the wolf that that attacks Odin and ends up killing him. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. But I believe that's the role that Fenris plays in Ragnarok. Right, the son of Loki. It's a little loose in my head, but because I did a lot of research on Fenris, and I've done a lot of research on Norse mythology when I was creating rags for the Brew and Chew. But yeah, so he kills Tyr, which is the god of war, right? Or the hand of Tyr. I know he mangles him or mutilates him, and Tyr is a god of war in Norse mythology. So I know he has a part in Ragnarok. So yeah. But I'm not going to keep Fen in the character in the book so close to what the character in Norse mythology is. I'm going to have to take some creative liberties with the character. So I don't know if he's supposed to be a villain, Marie, but in this series, he's not a villain. Think of it as like a reluctant adoptive father who's badass. That's what Fen will be. And so that series is going to be going back and forth. He's going to be dealing with Val as a child. So Fen will have the point of view voice. Those are going to be the scenes in the past. And then in the present, Val will be the point of view character, and she's going to be going through what she's going to be telling the story. So they're going to be back and forth telling the story. Like Fen will be telling the story from like the 1600s going to present, and Val will be telling the story from present onward. So it's going to be an interesting back and forth. Like they're going to be in situations, since she's a dark mage, like they're going to be in a tavern, and she's going to cast magic, and her hair is going to turn white because that's part of her. When dark mages cast magic, their hair turns white. That's how you can tell what a dark mage is. And so everyone knows, and all of a sudden, so Fen's like, oh, we got to go now. And then all of a sudden, everyone starts like to circle and to attack, and Fen's, pretty badass. So he's got to keep her safe, but all because she did something that she wasn't supposed to do, and her hair. Basically, Marie, he's kind of like an Obi-Wan, right? But he is much more dangerous than Obi-Wan. True, like Craig says, most of the old mythos characters weren't one alignment per se. If you want to talk Dungeons and Dragons terminology, right? They were kind of whatever the situation demanded of them. So they could be a villain or they could be a hero, depending on what they were doing at the time. And Fen definitely has a dark past, as he alludes to in that chapter. Like he's saying, there's a child has no place being next to me. You know what I do, that kind of thing. So that's going to be developed even more. So is who's still around? Heather asks. Heather was asking, is he still around? I'm sorry, I might have missed your question, Heather. So basically, he's like an Obi-Wan. Yes, Marie. And let's see. So let's put that project to the side for a moment. We're discussing blood lessons because someone was mentioning about how Dex's ability. I kind of like the paradox there where Dex was the serious one, and Jo was kind of she was more freewheeling, kind of like, it's just their first Stormblood. This is what happens, Yes, Heather, he's still in the present. He comes to the present with Val. So it just switches point of views. And so in the past, Fen is telling the story. When they come to the present, Val is now an adult, although she's much older than she appears, and she's telling the story. Oh, welcome back, Chris. Yeah, I wanted Jo. Jasmine, it's very true, yeah. I wanted to mention something about Monty. Thank you, Ted, to keep me back on track. So some of the readers were saying that it was a little too dark to have Monty kill Edith the way he did, right? That was kind of dark, and it was a little shocking to have Monty kill Edith that way. So I'd like to get your thoughts, because, and I'm going to take the StreamYard thing off. I'm going to take it off now. What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't think it was too dark. I think it was kind of appropriate for what was happening in the moment. And I addressed it, that Monty and Simon have a conversation in the first chapter of Broken Magic, because Simon's like, you're going dark with this one, whoa, what's up, So I thought it was appropriate because Edith was going to try and kill not only Monty, but pretty much a lot of mages. And Monty's like, this is not going to happen. We're going to have to stop this, nip this in the bud now. But it's interesting that some people felt that Monty was a little dark, Thanks, Jim, for the explanation about what Fenris or Fenrir took the hand of Tyr. He's bound by silk made by the dwarves. Right, and he fights Odin. I think he kills him as part of Ragnarok, yeah. Let's see what's happening. And I'm flying solo today because Dali's out with the youngest Valkyrie, with Z. They're doing school visits for, the thing. So that's why I'm flying solo. So please bear with me as I look back and forth and check things, So yes, it was something that had to be done. I agree with you, Wendy. I thought it was very situation appropriate. I didn't think it was over the top. And I had another reader once tell me that the stories are all this build up, and then when I get to the villain, it's like boom, it's over quick. And I'm like, kind of, yeah. So I wanted to kind of extend. I've been making an effort to kind of extend the final epic fights, the big boss fights. So I thought the one with Edith was good because it wasn't too long, and she had been a presence the whole story in a way. But when it finally got to the last confrontation, I didn't want it to be too long, but I wanted it to end like really dramatically. So I thought that was pretty good, Yeah, and it's like what Craig is saying. So let me go back a bit, Craig. Dan is saying, not in the 10 obsession was another sneaky nod to Dex's level of power having. All right. Yes, that was. If you're reading between the lines, Dan, there's a lot unsaid in that exchange when Dex asks, "What's the blood debt?" That comes up later on. So, but that's a really important. It seems like a throwaway, but by now in the books there are no throwaways. That's a really important one. That he protected the cloisters, and there was no blood debt to be had. That's a really important one. And Arya is really powerful. So, and Dex is even more powerful than that. And there's a character coming in Broken Magic that's even stronger than Dex, but I can't tell you who it is yet. But he's in the family, so it'll be fun. Monty and Simon would kill when necessary, but it was surprising how kind of cold and utterly vanquished her. Yeah, I agree, Jasmine. They usually are more reluctant, but I think in this instance, because of the situation, because Verity was closing in, because they were coming, and Edith was doing what she was doing, I think they had to kind of do it immediately, if that makes sense. Like, they didn't have time to contemplate, should we give her a chance, or should we have a conversation, So it was kind of like, this has to happen now, and it has to happen right away, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I totally understand, Jasmine, what you're saying, that they're kind of reluctant about it. And Simon addresses that in the next book, in Broken Magic. In the beginning, in the same chapter that I gave the snippet, later on, he starts talking to Monty about, who are we to pass judgment? And so he starts to question that whole, man, we were kind of cold with Edith. But he also understands that if Edith had gotten his blood, or if he had surrendered, every mage would have been in danger, starting with Verity, and the High Tribunal. So it's interesting that they have that kind of dichotomy, that paradox of, can we do this? Should we do this? Who are we to do this? Who determined that we're the judge, jury, and executioner? So that it's a real struggle for Simon, and as well for Monty, but Monty's much older than Simon, so he's been in battle, so he kind of understands that killing is sometimes part of what it means to be a mage. So yeah, and so like Craig says, and yes, she did deserve it, Jasmine. Like Craig is saying, we're dealing the effects of Dark Monty. So remember, he's finished using the Lost Elder Blood rune. There are still after effects of that, and so some of the actions and some of the things he's going to say are going to be a direct result of that. Right? So we kind of have to bear with him. And now that his magic is broken, it's going to be he's going to have a lot of lessons. Like this story, Broken Magic, really centers around Monty and his bias against wizards and what does it mean to be a mage. It's going to be a real learning experience for him. So that's going to be fun. Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, I think Edith kind of got what she deserved, you know? And yes, Facebook user, whoever you are, it was a tipping point for all the characters, for sure. Jim is saying, I thought that one of the things that is an important dynamic of Monty right now is the dark tendencies he may or may not have. Right. Hence the whole story of him being hunted for being a dark mage. Like that accusation didn't come from nowhere. It's true. And if you go from Tomb Yards and Butterflies to now, you'll see it's been a gradual shifting of Monty using things that he's not supposed to do, not supposed to use, right? That he's flirting with it, but he's maintaining control. So it was an important fact. It wasn't shocking. I wasn't shocked in the sense that he had to do it the way he did it, but it had to be an effect of him kind of skirting what being a dark mage is, you know? And then, Dan, it took too long to type sub. That's good. Yes, Wendy, as it should be. And, you know, it's like Chris is saying, you don't always have the time to pound or kill. And in the moment that they were in with what was happening, I mean, that moment there where she's generating all this energy and the rocks are starting to float up and all this energy is gathering around. They don't have time to have a conversation. I know a lot of readers have said they're in danger and all of a sudden they stop to have a conversation. And so I've tried to be really cognizant, really aware of that. Sometimes I do have to have these conversations in the midst of the chaos and the insanity. So I wanted to make sure that it was like, this is an immediate, a clear and present danger. You don't have time to talk about it. You got to take her out right now. So, you know, that was it. And it needed to be done that way. So Edith was the type of crazy that needed to be taken out. Yes. And Simon killed when he was the sniper. His past came back. True. Yeah, I'm glad you thought that was interesting, Jasmine. Yeah. Nuts is nuts, like Maria's saying. You don't have a conversation when they're trying to end you, except that Simon sometimes does. Like when he spoke to Evers, Simon sometimes does it as a coping mechanism because he's been thrust into this world that is really opening his mind, but also as a coping mechanism to deal with the fear, which is where the snark comes from, right? Because if you think about him being thrown into this world that he completely can't understand and now has all his abilities and his powers and things are happening, he has these conversations, one, because mages' egos are fragile, he likes to push buttons, but also because he's dealing with the unknown. And it's the only way he deals with that unknown is to be snarky, to be, you know, the way he is. And he likes to push those buttons. So sometimes he'll do the conversations to do that, and sometimes he'll do the conversation to buy time for Monty or Peaches or someone else to kind of help take that person out. Yeah. Yeah, as mages seem to pass a certain threshold of power, like Craig is saying, they seem to tolerate threats less, right? Because they get touchy. They get like, you don't question who I am, or you don't question my power. So, and like Chris is saying, it's harder not to kill. I believe that's what Dex was telling them at the end. Like, it's easy to destroy everything. What is hard to do is to build. And so that keeps coming back in Broken Magic because we're gonna have to fix Monty in a way. And so it's easy to break. It's much harder to restore, which is where the restoring palm comes in, right? The first Arkham Mortal was a precursor for the Super. Yes, that was pretty cool, right, Dan? Yeah, that's Kana will appear in cameos later on, right? Hi, Carrie, welcome. Right, yes, Jasmine, but now you know why, right? Because some people cope with fear by cracking jokes. Some people cope with fear by running away, like the flight. It's the fight, flight, or freeze response. And in Simon's case, it's the snark response. He's scared and he's used to being in danger, but he copes with it by being snarky, by coming back and saying things. And he doesn't have any real fear of these overpowered beings, but there's an underlying fear there. Right, he is a battle mage for sure. So that's why he's a little bit more, I guess, willing to do what needs to be done in the moment. Not that Simon isn't, because Simon has experience, but he doesn't have experience in this world. And that's what, you know, that's what makes it seem like, how can we do that kind of thing? The look was pretty awesome. And the fact that, I'm not a mage. I love that one line where it's in this, I think it's in the snippet where Monty tells Simon, well, now you're more of a mage than I am because you don't need a staff to use your meager abilities. So he still had to put a jab in there, but he made a point that Simon's more mage than he is right now. At the hospital, it's time to go. And Simon had questions. Yeah, Simon always has questions, because this whole world is new to him, Jasmine. So there's always questions, but sometimes the questions can't be answered because action has to be taken. True. Right. So yeah, Jim makes a really good point. When someone acts as a reaction, it's generally truer to their character. So is flirting with darkness is really bang on for Monty in a way. Yes, he can still control it because a mage. The whole thing about being a mage is control, right? So shouldn't Simon be beyond coping by now? I don't know, Mary, because there's so much, and his life hasn't remained static. It's in constant flux. So first he gets Ebensoul, then Ebensoul becomes a seraph, then now it's becoming a necromantic weapon. I mean, and so he's changing, and then first he meets Kali, now he meets Durga. So if it was just one thing that he was exposed to constantly, he could start coping. But Mary Beth, he's being thrown so many things that's hard for him to cope. So he has to kind of just keep adjusting. The world keeps adjusting around him, and he has to keep adjusting to the world. So it's this constant push and pull, Oh, will there be a reveal of Roxanne's backstory? It will start coming up, but we have a lot of books to go. Like right now, I'm only on book 18, and we have like 40 books right now in the Monty and Simon series. So it'll come up, but much later on, for sure. Haven's been attacked a lot lately, and that's only the beginning. At some point, it has to get leveled because they're going to come for Roxanne. So Jim is asking, I wonder, does part of Karma's curse protect this man from being unable to cope? Not Karma's curse, but Kali's curse, yes. Because remember, he was mortal. He's a regular guy, and all of a sudden he's been cursed. Granted, the curse was done under a certain condition, but Kali has ulterior motives too, right? Yes, keeps healing his blown mind. Exactly, Wendy. It may have been his pain. I don't understand, Mary, but okay. Is Broken Magic going to explore more of the non-mage magic users like the W word? Yes, or sorcerers of various. Yes, there's going to be. How do I say this without spoiling it, Craig? An elder ancestor that's a wizard that Monty's gonna have to meet and deal with. So there you go. Welcome, Facebook user Carrie. I'm glad you're here, even if it's the first time. Jasmine, bye. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for popping in. Let's see. Chris put this up again, so I'm going to put it up again so people can see. Moving to YouTube. Come to YouTube, Enid. We are in both. We're on YouTube and Facebook, so you can go to either one. Yes. The Midnight Echelon. I thought that's a great little addition to the story, especially with Nan. I really like Nan's character is just a lot of fun to write. She was a lot of fun. Embrace the suck, yeah. 40, yeah, at least 40. There might be more. Depends. I'm really focusing on the Monty Strong world and the new secret thing. I don't think it's going to be connected to the Monty Strong world, but we'll see. It's already connected in a way because Sid makes a cameo, but I don't know if it's going to be directly connected. The same way Jericho, Porter, and Bug are somewhat connected, but not in the same world. I can see the YouTube comments if you type in YouTube for sure. I can see it. Oh, about coping. Yes, you embrace the suck. That's it. And Simon is familiar with that, with embracing the suck. But this is beyond anything that he's seen in his whole world. So it's different. I'm removing the link, but if you need it, let me know. I'll find it and put it up again. Let's see. Hold on, Jim. Please, God, before you write the encounter with the ancestral wizard, please read my comment on the snippet. I want to see Simon dice with death by suggesting. Oh, yeah. I read the comment. It was hilarious. Yes. I don't know if Simon is willing to risk his life that much to tell Monty to embrace being a sorcerer. Yeah. Karma is like that. It comes for everyone at some point. And sometimes friendly, sometimes not so friendly. But yeah, everyone gets a dose of karma at some point. Yeah. Is the ancestor paternal or maternal? Will we be meeting Monty's mom's family? Not for a while. Monty's mom's family, which Edith alluded to in Blood Lessons, doesn't appear until much later. Let's see, we're on book 18. 18, 21, let's see, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Book 26 is when Monty has to go to his mom's side and get help from his mom's side of the family. So you gotta wait a little while before the mom's side comes up. So yes, it'll be paternal. This with ancestors be paternal. Let's see. Embracing the suck is called life. Exactly, Chris. Yes. And there's definitely less lag on YouTube, I'm sure. No, he's not going to be Blackstaff McCoy. I would never so blatantly rip off Jim Butcher that way. But Blackstaff McCoy is such a great character, man. I really loved when Jim did that. I didn't like what he did with the character, the way he dealt with Harry later on, but I liked the character itself, which was awesome. Yeah, he's not gonna have any problem. I mean, they're gonna be Jim, to answer your head, he pokes at Callie and Karma with no issue, although he know Karma taps him on the face and nearly breaks his head, right? Yes, Carrie, you are you now. It's awesome. He's not gonna have any problem poking at Monty, and there are going to be a tremendous amount of Gandalf, you shall not pass, references like that, references to Wizard, Oz, all kinds of tongue-in-cheek references to being a wizard that Simon's gonna try and throw in there, very subtle, you know. But it's gonna be a lot of fun, and he's gonna risk his life a few times too. So, yeah, it's really important that to answer Chris's comment that the readers wonder about the characters. It's really important to have readers come to these conclusions, and maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But it's really important because it gets us all thinking about, you know, these kind of things. So yeah, Monty Balrog. Yeah, Monty there's a reason why. So in this book, in Broken Magic, the reason why Monty doesn't like wizards really starts to come up and to the forefront, and he's gonna have to really confront it and deal with. So he's gonna be upset with Simon at some point because Simon has this really great method of being tactful. Not so much. So we'll see. A Monty Balrog might be happening. Who knows? Dan is saying, speaking of Nan, will Nana be making an appearance? Yes, she will. You mentioned earlier someone due to appear stronger than Dex, but not the man. Not yet. Silk isn't due for a while. Or is it someone it's someone you've not been introduced to before? I guess I can tell you who it is in the sense of what part of the family. So this is the person that you're going to meet is Dex's uncle. That should tell you everything. So, yeah. In a sense, so wait. Dumbledore the early years, right? I try not to drag it out, Chris. I try to make it so that it's always happening. To answer Jim's statement, I presume before now that it's basically the mage world equivalent of racism. In a sense, yeah, it's like mageist in a sense, because mages view wizards as inferior. So it's not the person per se, but the discipline. For them, it's like if you were really talented, if you would really apply yourself, you could have been a mage, but you settled for being a wizard, and now you need a focus, whereas mages don't need a focus. So it's something that he's been taught, but not something that he needs to get away from and change his way of thinking. And he's going to learn that when he meets Dex's uncle, which will be a lot of fun. I guess, I don't know do doctors look at dentists as kind of lesser than in a way, because dentists do provide a very important service by working on teeth. That's really important. And if you ever had a toothache, trust me, you don't want a doctor. You want a dentist, and you want a dentist right now, you know? But do doctors look at dentists as failed doctors? I'm not being a doctor. I don't know doctors that well, but I guess we could ask a doctor. We have a few that we know. I don't know if that's the case, Jim. If it is, then in a way it's the same. It's not so much as mages look at wizards as failed mages, but more as, why would you choose to be a wizard when you could study harder and be a mage, or apply yourself more and be a mage? Why would you pick the inferior choice? In a mage's mind, that's the inferior choice. We're going to see in the wizard's mind what the response is in this book, you know? So it's different, you know? Wizards need a focus. A mage is the focus. So like, I think Craig is saying that, right? So mages have a hard time looking beyond themselves, which is what Simon does for Monty, right? Simon kind of gives him a foil to say, it's not just about you, it's bigger. In many cases, Monty does that for Simon when it comes to discussing the world of magic. But when it comes to mages versus wizards, Monty is very myopic about this. Because it's what he's been taught, it's what he thinks he knows, and so it's going to be interesting to see him break out of that worldview, you know? Right, and like pipe fitters look at plumbers. We put, yeah, like, you know, or how nurses look at doctors, because nurses really do all the work, you know? In many cases, nurses are the ones that make the doctors look good. And so it's that kind of dynamic, you know? Right, yeah. So yeah, like Jim is saying, some doctors will tease dentists as being failed doctors, even though it's a completely different area of expertise because they're focused on oral surgery and oral activity. And doctors, even doctors have special, like you have neurosurgeons, you have gastroenterologists. So being a dentist is just a different discipline, but a lot of doctors will poke fun at dentists. Yeah. And sometimes, like Enid is saying, there are doctors who will look down on nurses. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, the nurses are the ones who are the engines of a hospital, who make things happen, and who, in many cases, keep doctors out of trouble. So yeah. Yeah, I'd rather deal with a nurse, because nurses have what you call trench knowledge, like on the floor, they're in the trenches and they know what's happening, whereas doctors are a little bit more top down. And so nurses are kind of in the trenches, they know what's happening. I'd rather deal with a nurse than a doctor sometimes, for sure. So it's really important. Yeah, nurses, here's the thing. Doctors sometimes, and I've met a few who like to emphasize that they're doctors. Nurses never really do that. Nurses do it with their actions. They'll take care of you, they'll put you together, sew you up if they need to, get the shots, draw the blood, all that. And they don't really need to say, I'm a nurse. Doctors sometimes, because I've met doctors and sometimes they'll lead with doctor somebody. I'm doctor someone. Like, okay, but we're not in a medical setting right now. There's no need for you to emphasize you're a doctor. I get the mentality, because if you spend 6 years and then interning and then the resident, you figure, you need to let everyone know I'm a doctor, but you don't really need to. And nurses are the unsung heroes in hospitals. Yeah, my God, the time is flying, Craig. Dan says, I can't help it. I pick up on the little things. While Nana is rescuing Simon from Haven at the start of blood lessons, she says various members of the 10 were taking names in the building. Where's that chapter? That chapter is in the unwritten part. I can't show that part yet, because in that part, there are members of the 10 that haven't been introduced yet. So I can't show that yet. But for that to be revealed, I have to write the Chronicles of the 10, so that you can start knowing who these characters are. I believe that, Carrie, that veterinary surgeons are better qualified than doctors. Welcome, Linda. Let's see. Enid says, my aunt was an ER nurse, and when she mentioned going back to school, a doctor asked her if she was going to get her doctor. Yeah, why? Even like she didn't work hard enough to become, how hard it is to become an ER nurse, or just to become a nurse, period, an LPN or an RN. It is hard. It is hard work. Yes. Okay. Jumping in late, making lunch, more like psychiatrists look at psychologists. Why didn't you get an MD? Yes, I've seen that too. The psychiatrist-psychologist thing. I've seen that. I don't know who you are, Facebook user, but I've seen that. Rena was asking, when is Chi coming back to M&S? This book, we start seeing Chi come back. They start having conversations because the magic is broken and Evan's soul has been transformed. And let's not forget that the reason Simon has Ebensoul is because of Chi. So she's gonna want an accounting of what happened to this blade, and why did you let it happen, and is it have you become more of a threat, and do I need to take you out now, kind of thing. But she's dealing with the Dark Council. If you remember Rule of the Council, that trilogy, she's cleaning house. So she'll make an appearance in this book because they need to have a conversation. But she's not going to be full-blown in this book, and she'll be full-blown in the next book with the Lost Runes, because she's going to be tied to where the Lost Runes are. So because they're going to, with the next book is called Lost Runes, they're going to have to find some Lost Runes, and they're going to need Chi's help to find the Lost Runes. So yeah, so she comes back as a character in the next book, like really involved, but she has a conversation with Simon in this book, in Broken Magic, because of what happened to Ebensoul and Simon as a result of that. The magic equivalent would be the upper ranks of the sex as compared to boots on the ground, wardens and peacekeepers. Yeah, pretty much the same. Yeah, kind of like that. Jim says, I talked to you a little bit about this couple of days. Sid, his binding of the stories together and being a stamp. Yes. Have you thought about when you're going to start looking at the wider universes and how you might tie them together? Not for a while yet. Sid is the vehicle for that, because Sid, being a designer or a lead designer, can move through timelines, and each set of stories is a series, or each series is a timeline unto itself, and some intersect and some run parallel. So Sid is the only character that can do that, and once I write the designers, then you start seeing all these things start to kind of come together like this, kind of like the what if stories on when Marvel did What If, and all these kind of stories started connecting, kind of like that. Yeah, scrap the Soon. I can't scrap the Soon. The Soon's gotta, it happens. Says he won't be a big part, but characters sometimes value. Yeah. So like, I'll give you an example of what Craig is saying, which is true. Bug was not gonna be a big character. Bug was just gonna be a sidekick character. Like, she was gonna be there to help kind of support Porter in what he was doing. And Bug completely took over the story, completely took over the series. Like, I could write a Bug story easier than I can write a Porter story. So yeah. So, is that a spoiler, Chris? Has everyone seen the new Doctor Who? I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but it's awesome. I can tell you it's awesome. Because it was one of my favorite Doctor Who's. So if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it is awesome. So Jim, I can't say, 1 year of the new guy. It was excellent, Craig. Yeah. Rumor says 1 year of the new guy. I don't know what that means, but okay, the new guy. 1 year of the new guy? That'd be awesome if it was 1 year. So Jim, to answer your question in a more cohesive way, I have given it thought about the wider universes and how to tie them together, but I don't want to tie them together too tightly. I'm going to leave it loose because that gives it room to grow. So, yes, Marie, yes. Is Doctor Who male or female? Yes, Trisha. That's the answer. Is Doctor Who male or female? Yes. Even from the beginning, even when I started with Doctor Who number 4, the 4th one. And even back then, he was never, how would I say it? He was considered gender fluid. The creature, the being, the Galilean was considered gender fluid. But TV being the way it was, they weren't going to have a female doctor until recently. And even when they had a female doctor, there was a huge uproar about portraying a woman as the doctor, because in everyone's minds, from who grew up with the doctor, they always saw the doctor as male, even though it was never really set as male. So the doctor's both, and that's why you saw a female doctor. The problem that came up was that people rebelled against the idea, So that's why they went back to a male doctor. Let's see. Jim is saying, gods, depending on the writer, I guess, tend to transcend multiverses. Yes. So would you see multiple versions of gods, or could they potentially have multiple versions, or could you see the lights of the Morrigan being the same person regardless of the story? Someone like the Morrigan, or a character like the Morrigan, I don't think you'd have a different Morrigan for different universes, because the Morrigan is already a triune god. You may have different facets of her, right? But I think it would be the same Morrigan across universes, because beings of that level are kind of outside time and universes, so they kind of go from universe to universe. The same being would do that, you know? Let's see, Doctor Who, this is blasphemy to most of you, I'm sure, never appealed to me. That's fine, when you're entitled to. Doctor Who is subjective like anything else, so that's fine. All you have to do is look at the companions and you can tell Doctor Who is gender fluid, so yeah. New guy, same as the old guy, but not. Exactly, yes. Author promos time. I just got the alarm. I just got the notice. I wouldn't mind a female 007. I think it's way past time. They should have a female 007. I think they did in the last movie, in the one where Craig's Daniel's character dies. There was a female 007. They just gave it back to Craig's character, but there was a female 007. All right, there are author promos to do, so we're doing them now. Relic Throne by Ben Zackheim. Let's put it up. Please get, so this is our little commercial part. So this is the part where we promote our indie authors. So Ben Zackheim is one of our authors in the MoB. Please go get his book, his latest book. I think he closes out the series with this. It's 10 books, if I'm not mistaken. Is Relic Throne. So please go get that. So this is the first one of our author promos today. So these are our commercials. Tell them what they won, Don. I should do my Don Pardo voice. I'm already dating myself with Don Pardo. Noah K. Studevant. I always mangle his last name. But Noah is also another MoB author. Sometimes I get away, and that's okay. So this is a story that he's written recently. So please get this. And as always, we support our indie authors. So they're not all MoB authors, but we actually do have a lot of authors in the MoB. So it's awesome. So I'm going to leave it up, and let's see what the next one. There are comments happening. I will get to them after the author promos. These are part of our episode. The next one, Stephanie Fox, Stolen Trinkets. This is the audiobook, I'm guessing here. Stephanie Fox is part of a two-author couple. And so she and her husband, they kind of write the stories together. So Stephanie Fox, I think it's Alex, I forgot they have a name that they do together. But great people. I met them at the last 20 books to 50K I went to. So please pick up their audiobook, Stephanie Fox, Stolen Trinkets. Yes, and the Ben's book is the last in his series. All right, for those of you that like vampires and funny vampires, Rick Gualtieri has a story, a Vela story, Boer War. So go. I don't know how to get stuff on Vela yet because I'm not that well versed on it. But I think you have to get credits and then you can pick it up and it's things like that. So go get Boer War because Rick is a great author. He's written the Build a Vampire series, which is really funny and hilarious. So go get that. Let's see who else we got. And our own Chris has released Wild Magic. I know you pushed it back to the 22nd, and today's the 28th, so Wild Magic is out. So go grab that, and let's support our indie authors. I'm sure it's his first time. It's Rick's first time trying Vela. Okay. I haven't really looked into Vela because I'm busy writing stuff. But go get Chris's Wild Magic. Is this the third book, or is this the second book? I forget. Chris? All right, so I'm guessing this is the second book, Wild Magic. All right, so that's it for the promos. Don't we have anything for John Logsdon? I know he wrote a book. He had one recently. So, well, this is Chris's second book, Wild Magic. So please pick this up, okay, guys? I know there's another one coming down the pike, as they say. All right, and don't forget, I'm sure John wrote a grave, something in the grave mythos books. So go grab that one too. Oh, let's see. So let me go back. A female 007. They should. Why not? I think it would be awesome. I think it's way past time too. I'm trying to find out. Okay. Laura says no on the female. Marie says it's a talk of a female. 007. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about it. I think what they did with Loki, Jim, and they made various different Lokis, it kind of diluted the power of Loki, right? So that's one of the risks you take when you do that with a character. Okay. Rena says not every character needs to become a female. I'm a traditionalist. And I don't think it's even a matter of tradition. Some characters should be male, some characters should be female. It depends on the motivation, right? A character like Doctor Who has always been gender fluid. It's fine to bring a female version of the character to light. I think they should have done it. If they had done it way before this Doctor, the most recent one, it wouldn't have been such a big deal because they could have alternated male actor, female actor, male actor, female actor, and it would have been more accepted. The fact that they waited so long and generations grew up with male doctors, that's what made it such a scandal. So Gravedigger, yes. So pick up the latest John book, okay, guys. So in terms of that, I think making Doctor Who a female or a male is no big deal. If the writing, it goes back to the writing. If the writing is really well done, I think that was one of the issues with the female Doctor. There was so much upheaval that the series suffered. Dan, take care. Have a great weekend. You gotta be something back to the realm of pie and gravy. It sounds like it's a real tough thing to do there. See, I didn't see. Yeah, the Master became a female, right? Ghostbusters, I did not see when they tried to do they did a remake with Ghostbusters as females, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't see it, so I don't know. Yeah, the female Loki is myth canon. That is true. Not only Doctor Who, the Master is also gender fluid. He turned into Missy and everyone loved her. Right. So I think it comes back to the actual writing for the character. And I've always told Dolly this, no matter who they cast, I'm biased, of course, but it comes back to the writing. It always goes back to the writing, to the story that's being told. So you can have the greatest actors portraying a character, but if the writing is not up to snuff, if it's not as good as it can be, the story's going to suffer, right? So it goes back to that. So when they wrote the character female and the writing for the character, I heard, because I haven't watched Doctor since David Tennant was the last Doctor I watched. So since that, the writing they did for the female actor was really bad, I hear. And so that only added to the negativity around Doctor Who at that time. So, yeah. Like Mary Beth is saying, the writing for her was awful. But I think with Doctor Who, Jen is saying, I think with Doctor Who always being gender fluid is fine, but there's an ongoing problem that with tokenism female characters. They're doing the same with LGBT and color and creed. It's bad, but I think you're right. The motivation is important. It all depends on why you're doing it. Like, they're going to make Superman, they're going to make a black Superman, from what I understand. And they're going to make a female Thor, but that's not new. Female Thor goes back to the comic books. Black Superman does not. So they're going to create one, but why are you going to create one? Are you going to create one because you're succumbing to the pressure and it's the current thing, or are you going to create one because in a different timeline there was a black Superman and you're bringing that story now to the DC universe? So it's the motivation behind the creation of the character, all the Time Lords are gender fluid, right? Craig, take care. #villain. Dan, have a great weekend. Wendy says, I feel werewolf by night strongly supports the badass female fighter, and that would be fine for a Bond now too. Yeah, it also depends on the societal norms, because a female Bond, you couldn't have a female Bond in the 1950s, 60s, maybe the 60s, because there was a time of the social revolution. But in the 40s and the 50s, you weren't going to have a female Bond. That was not going to happen. So 70s, 80s, it was easier. Now, female Bond kind of makes sense. Like, why not? Why wouldn't you have a female Bond? So, yeah, sure. Joe, take care. Have a great weekend. Yeah, Villain Departed is out. So, yeah, scrapes in right at the end. We're not quite at the end yet, but scrape right on in. Is that you, Mark? Awesome. So, you know, it's like Jim says, and like I'm saying, it's the motivation behind it. Sometimes it's purely a financial motivation. They just want to make money. Like the new Miss Marvel that was on Netflix touched upon her being South Asian. And I haven't seen the show, so I can't speak to it. But it's an interesting story. If the writing is good, fine. But why would she need to be South Asian? There's got to be a motivation for it. Like, what caused this, you know? So, yeah, the name is the character. Now, granted, when Ian Fleming created the character, he definitely made the character male. That's the way he saw the character, as a male, as a womanizer kind of thing. Like he was a spy, and Ian Fleming, you know, that's the kind of the life he lived in a way. So it made sense because he was a product of his time. But times change, and so the character can change too. And it's like Batman. There's a Batwoman. There's a Batgirl, Batwoman. So it's, you know, and the character's 80 years old, but, you know, they made a different, a female version, right? Female Bond, no. Female 007, yes. Two separate identities. I agree. It could be a female 007. It can't be Jane Bond. That's like really stretching it, you know? So, but she could be a female 007. Why not? Christopher Lee was related to Ian Fleming. I believe they're cousins. And that's why it was based on Christopher Lee. I like that. The Prisoner was a great show. All right, I'm going to go questions, so I'm not going to see the feed. So you're going to have to forgive me because I'm not going to be able to see the feed while we deal with questions. So here we go. Questions. All right, I'm at the questions. Let's see. The first question, the oldest question in the universe, hidden in plain sight. Number 42. Doctor Who. Yes. Okay, we're going to bypass that because that was just awesome. Audrey's questions. All right, here we go. Orlando, what does literary success look like to you? I think literary success for any writer, this is my opinion, okay? For any writer is to have their stories be read. That's literary success. The byproduct of that is that people share your stories. In some cases, they buy your stories, but I've given a lot of stories away to people just because they really, really love the stories. But the literary success is, as an author, as a writer, to have that creation of your imagination be read and appreciated by other people and then spoken about or shared with other people because they enjoyed it so much. That is literary success, in my opinion. And that's I'm not saying that's literary success for everyone, but that's literary success for me. All right, Dolly, how would you describe Orlando's book to someone unfamiliar with them? Dolly's not here right now, so I'll be taking in the role of Dolly for this MoB episode, unless she's going to be speaking in the comments. But Dolly, as I know, would say, they're awesome, they're epic, they're fantastic. That's what I would say, Dolly would say. I'm sure she's going to say something else. But yeah, that's my stand-in for Dolly. Orlando, what's the best? These are all questions from Audrey. What's the best $20 you've ever spent? The best $20 I've ever spent was on a game of 3-card Monte. I was really young, naive, and impressionable. It's in Manhattan, so that's back when they were doing this all the time near 42nd Street at Times Square, the tourist area. And I saw them, and I said, oh, I can follow that, not realizing that it was a scam. And I put my $20 down, and they shuffled the cards, and I went to pick where I thought the red queen was because it's 2 black cards and a red queen, and you got to find the red queen. And I lost my $20, and I had just earned those $20, and I was crushed. And I learned in that moment not to be so gullible. So it was a hard lesson, but it was the best. It was the cheapest lesson to learn that lasted me my entire life, because here we are, I'm talking about it decades later. Okay, thank you for these great questions, Audrey. Michelle Blues giving me possibilities of books regarding the 10, that's in the work. Younger Dex, I'm guessing that's Dex, or Younger Dex. I don't know if we're gonna do a Younger Dex. We'll do the adventures of Nana and Dex, but not Younger Dex. How Frank Became a Dragon, that gets revealed in the Night Warden series. More crossovers. I don't really do crossovers. Sometimes we'll have cameos, but not crossovers, Michelle. So we'll have characters appear in other stories, sort of like how Gray showed up in the Rule of Council, things like that. But crossovers, not so much. Okay, Jim asks, thank you for the question, Michelle. Jim is making a statement saying, with so many stories, universes, rich characters, etc., can you talk about, or will you talk about the potentiality of linking them? They are linked, but it's a very loose link. How might I do it? Probably through Sid or through events that occur in different areas or in different times, but they're linked in that way through Sid or through some timeline linking. When might you do it? Oh, I can't tell you that. And you won't do it with. I wouldn't do it with Porter and Bug because they're in this self-contained world. So I don't think they'd ever come to the actual Monty and Strong world. They're linked in a way, the same way like Sid gave them the Nomad, things like that. Or, you know, Cecil through Sid gave them the Nomad. Okay. Also, when are you, Darling the Valkyries, coming to Ireland to blow my neighborhood? I'm not going to Ireland anytime soon. Dex might go to Ireland sometime soon to go blow it up. Yes. So, but yeah, I'm not worried. We can go over it again. It's cool. All right. Chasey wants to know, when you start doing Peaches merchandise or any Mountainside merchandise, will you be shipping to the UK? We'll have to find a way to get that done, Tracy, because shipping to the UK, if I recall, is pricey. And I don't want it to cost more for the people who are in the UK than the people who are in the US. So we'll have to figure out a way to get that done. All right, here we go. I'm going back to the feed because those were the questions. Thank you all for the great questions. That was awesome. Let's see. I'm not a number. Okay, that's what we love. Been a Batwoman for a long time. She was originally Batman's cousin or something. Yes, I forgot her name. She was Commissioner Gordon's daughter, if I'm not mistaken. At least in the comics. Yes, Wendy. And Connery was the perfect 50s personification for Bond because he was a man's man. So he was perfect casting for that role. Even George Lazenby, who was before Connery, was pretty good, but he only did one movie. Connery went on to do a bunch of movies, right? So, literary success is to have a reader and they like the story you're telling. I think that's most authors' definition of literary success. I think so. Wig and falsetto voice for the win. I don't know who that is. Is that someone I know? It says Facebook user. I don't know who it is. You're welcome, Michelle. Crossovers are too hard. Listen, crossovers are hard. Anyone who tells you they're not hasn't really done them often. I did a few. I did one crossover with John Logs in one book, and it was wow. It was just like, yeah, let me tell you. And we had fun doing it. It wasn't like it was hard between us. It's just hard to coordinate it in a story to make it make sense in both stories. So it's just you're giving yourself more work than you actually. It's already, okay. Let me backtrack. Writing a book is hard. When you're gonna write a book and make it a crossover, not only are you writing a book now, you're writing a book and you're linking it to another book, and both books have to work and mesh seamlessly. That's really hard. You're just giving yourself more work than you need to. Dare you enter the Orlandoverse? Warning, they contain explosions. Welcome, Benna. Hola. You're here. Get like 5 minutes, but you're here. All right, Facebook user. Is Bug going to have a continuing series? She's the bomb. Yes, she is the bomb. They have a continuing series. It's called, let me see if I remember. Black Crows is the first one of the continuing series, if I'm not mistaken. Black Crows. Let's see. Come to Romania. Romania would be nice. There's a lot of nice places in Romania. Maybe, because I can't give away too much, Marie, but the whole thing about vampires, Transylvania, Lost Ruins ties into that part of the world. Put it that way. Okay, Tracy. Oh, okay, that's good. Did I ever get the correct pronunciation for Nemain? I'm thinking it's Nemain, unless there's a different one. But it is Nemain. What I learned, it was Nemain. So yeah, Wendy, if you've heard a different pronunciation, let me know, so I won't hear it as the main in my head. A lot of the pronunciations, when I'm reading them, have a certain pronunciation. I pronounce them a certain way as I'm reading them or writing them. To do crossovers well, you have to have the same knowledge of the other universe as well. Yes, which I can do in my books, which is not an issue. When I did it with John, I knew the other universe pretty well because it's the PPD, and we had collaborated in it. And even knowing the knowledge of the world and what they were doing and where we were meeting and how we were crossing over and all the characters involved, it was still monumentally difficult to do that. So crossovers, if you could do them well, more power to you. I stay away from crossovers. So it's just, it's like writing 2 books at once, and that's tough. It's really tough. Guys, we're almost done. We got like a minute or so. No, it's not a Gaelic tongue twister. I'm currently reading the Conrad Clark novels by Mark Meyer, I believe is the name of the author. Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to tell you right now in a second. I want to make sure I get the author correctly. It is the Conrad Clark novels by Mark Hayden, and it's like 12 books, I think. 12 books in the series, 13 books in the series. So he uses a lot of Gaelic words in there, and it's like, oh, what does it mean? How do you pronounce it? Because it's, you know how Gaelic is. It's like all over the place. So I don't know if Dolly's here. Dolly's here. Hello, Dolly. So, and you're welcome, Michelle. I missed Dolly today too. She's out and about with Z doing a bunch of school stuff, which is awesome. But I miss her being here. So if you see me, notice this episode I didn't really go like this much because she's not here, flying solo. So what was the question? The Gaelic words, I can't use Gaelic words because they're hard for me to even understand sometimes, or like when you write Welsh, like Wales, and those words get really long, like 18,000 consonants in the word. Doesn't make any sense to me. I stay away from that stuff. I like to keep the words nice and simple. So, but as Jim says, if it was Gaelic, it'd be Nimon, and it's not Nimon. It's Nemain. But I could be wrong. I'll look it up again. I'm pretty sure it's Nemain. But I'm willing to learn Nimon too. So it's like Shaban. It's spelled Siobahn or something like that. So. Yeah, Welsh isn't a language, it's a conspiracy. You know what? That's a conspiracy I'm willing to entertain. Sure. Right, it's like the early days of sci-fi where they would use like apostrophes and a whole bunch of letters that don't work together. And yeah, Shaban, yeah. Right, so that's Shaban. I believe that's Shaban, right? Siobhan is Shaban. And it looks like Siobhan or Siobhan, and you know, so it doesn't work for my brain, so I keep them out of the books. Yeah, yeah, I'd stay away from Gaelic. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate the culture. I just don't use names that are Gaelic because it can be hard for a lot of readers to kind of wrap their heads around the pronunciations. So no Gaelic tongue twisters at all. Sorsha, I'm guessing, Shorsha, something like that. So yeah, my tongue is not designed for Gaelic. I have to learn the words, the phonetics of it. Sorsha, yeah. Sarah, see? There you go. All right, guys. Bye, Renee. So we're going to wrap this up because it is time to go. I want you guys to have a great, fantastic weekend. I really enjoyed our blood lessons conversation and the few things that we could reveal. And it's a lot of fun to be here with you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you when we do our mock TVs. Our next one will be the 11th of November. And I don't think we're doing another one in November because I think the next one is Thanksgiving. So we'll have only one in November. Morrigan wouldn't have a hard G. Would it be Morrigan? Morrigan. Yeah, Morrigan. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Nimue. I believe it's Nimue, right? And Nyam. That'd be awesome if I could start. I would have to like get a thesaurus, actually a phonetic book for these words. So guys, have a great weekend. Have a happy Halloween or bless Samhain if that's what you guys do. And thank you all for being here today. It's one of the goals, if ever, is that we can all sit down one day in an actual location and have like a MoB TV discussion. That would be fantastic. And bring our coffee or our tea or whatever beverage and just hang out with each other the way we do here. It would be awesome. So thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend. And as always, always be uncommon.